All right, today in this video, we're gonna watch one of our TTT coaches and athletes, Matt Gilpin, perform our conditioning test for our upcoming TTT Compete cycle. This is our burpee row beat test that Adam Rogers created as an opportunity to test your abilities to row and do burpees in the sport.
We try to come up with a novel format for these two movements. We know that people might get a little burned out with the combination and they see it all the time, but I think that's kind of the purpose. Like, we see it all the time. We see it all the time in long time windows and different time domains, but you're going to see this combination at some point. So try to come up with a new format, but we're also going to use this cycle to work on the capacity of the test. So the way it's set up, it's a beep test, which means that the work itself is going to stay the same round by round, but the time window, the actual length of the interval, is going to go down each round. So it's going to be a 500-meter row for guys, 450-meter row for girls. Actually, it starts with 10 lateral burpees over the row or into 500-meter row or 450-meter row. The first window is 4 minutes long. You've got plenty of time to get that done. And then the time window is going to go down by 10 seconds each round after that. So first couple should be very straightforward. They should be pretty easy. You're going to find a middle chunk there where it's going to start to get a little bit tighter and things are going to start to feel a little panicky. But yeah, what we want out of this is we want you working on that combination. We want you thinking about efficiency. We want you getting up to pace quickly on the rower. Yeah. But it should be a fun test for pretty much everybody.
Yeah, and what's cool about this test too is we also, it ends at 13 rounds basically. So you can complete the whole thing. So the beep test does end. It doesn't just go on forever. I'd say a large majority of people are going to get capped like in the middle to later rounds. But for the more elites, those that have really good burpee and rowing capacity, you can try to or expect to get close to finishing or finishing. And the cool part about the end of the test is you complete the 12 full rounds, and then the 13th round is basically for time. So if you get past that 12th round barrier, then you're basically going as fast as you can on that 13th round.
Yeah, that does sound cool. I can't wait.
This is your reward. You now get to do it all again as fast as you can.
I know. Yeah, your reward is more pain.
But it is finishable. So as we'll see here in a second with Matt, it is finishable, especially for those who are efficient at both of those. But
yeah. All right, let's jump
watch
in.
That. And we're off.
He is so fast.
So before we talk, I think about just like philosophically why we kind of chose this test. This is in double speed as we're watching it. His burpees are not this fast. But 30 seconds, 3 seconds a rep, that's probably what anybody would expect as like a top speed in this format. Yeah. You're not sprinting the burpees. And these first couple rounds, like Adam talked about in explaining the workout, they're not really that hard to complete. Like for a guy, you can row a 2 minute, 15 second, 500-meter row and still have plenty of rest time in your first couple rounds. So these ones are really just like preemptively getting you tired.
I mean, you have sort of like a choose your own adventure with these first couple of rounds. You can think about, I mean, you see Matt messing around on there, but you can think about, putting your finish time at 2:45 or 3 minutes and just saving your energy. You can think about trying to use these rounds as like legit warm up where you're thinking about the pace that you want to be at and putting your finish times at like 2:20 to 2:30, like getting yourself used to what it feels like. That way you're ready for it when it hits later. So it's kind of, I would say it's individualized. It's almost like personal preference, how you want to go about these first couple.
Yeah. Some people would like to just, all right, I want to just have this minimum speed that I'm going to basically sustain to get the row done and then try and bank on having more rest. Others, like Matt said, he wanted to stretch it out as much as possible. So I just don't think he could really go any slower. He was stepping over the burpees. His row pace was well over 2 minutes. He was just kind of chilling. So.
And he was joking around doing the Trevor tugs. Like, he's obviously not working that hard, and he still had 1:30 of full rest between this. So this format is super unique, I think, in like kind of the physiological response, but more so the psychology. And I think as we get closer to the competitive season, you see more tests where you have, a certain amount of work that you got to get done in a window to get into a next window. And, tests like 19.2, and it's a very common way of testing, and it really plays on your psyche when you're getting into your later rounds. We're not there yet, but you go from this kind of like, oh, this is easy, into like, oh my God, the window's only 10 seconds away. Yeah. And your last couple, you really got to start figuring out like where to push, how to manage that fatigue and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think what is different about these types of workouts, when you're out of control of basically the time windows when they shrink, your pacing real quickly basically like goes out of your own control. Like, you basically have to get to a point where it's like, all right, I'm not pacing this anymore as if I'm finishing 10 rounds for time. I'm basically trying to have to speed up to complete the work. And that pressure creates a different response mentally that almost basically makes people panic or makes them choke. And I see athletes very often underperform in these types of workouts when they truly did have the capabilities to make it past that kind of threshold or that barrier round. But basically the time pressure created this response where they panicked and almost like didn't keep it together and create like this amount of self-awareness to know like I have to drop the hammer right now or it's not going to happen. And that is not a comfortable experience.
I think it's an interesting point because I do think that self-awareness is a huge aspect of being able to do well at this style of test. I think that in CrossFit, what you'll end up finding is a lot of times people can stay in their own lane. Sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. It's one where most of the time you're not really trying to beat one other person. It's not like a one-on-one sort of like, contest or anything else. Here, it really is like you versus the clock, and the clock is like pulling you into a place where you don't really want to go, which I think is kind of unique in CrossFit as a setting, as a modality, as a sport. So the awareness of knowing like what a 220 round feels like versus what's a 230 round, 240 round. What are these guys doing to my fatigue? How is this adding up? How am I responding when the window starts to go down? It does, like Max was saying, it pulls you into a place that I would say is probably foreign for most people inside of CrossFit as a sport.
Yeah. He's 2 rounds done. He's starting his third round. I have his splits here, but his first round was 237. His second round was 231. So he went a little bit faster, but I think it was mostly the burpee speed from what I remember watching.
Yeah. That second round of row too, he wasn't messing around as much. So it was probably just a couple seconds of just, better technique. Something to consider with this test. So, a lot of the tests, retests we do are typical formats of AMRAPs or for times. This one's going to be a little bit different and depending upon the athlete. So Adam already spoiled that Matt's going to finish this. If you have the capacity to finish this workout, it's basically a max effort sprint at the end of the test when you're super in a nasty state and like maybe that last 1 or 2 windows is going to be a challenge. So when you go back to retest it, just a couple seconds difference and improvement is a really big improvement on a test like this. If you're failing in one of the earlier rounds, you might be able to get 2 or 3 rounds deeper into the workout with some awareness of when you push and, doing a finishing kick to get through a certain threshold. So it's going to be a little bit different of a test retest in setting expectations after you do the actual test.
Yeah, and I think the magic of this one, the way it's set up, is like everyone's going to end in a sprint finish, no matter where you're at.
Yeah.
Like whether you're about to get capped in round 6 or if you're finishing the whole thing and you are hitting that 13th bonus round. So
your sprint finish is going to finish a round, but then you have to try to finish in the next round, which is very hard to make a sprint finish after you sprint finish to get through.
For those that get capped, it's going to feel like, all right, let's say you were very close to finishing one round. And then for those that basically sell their soul to get that round completed, it's just leftover at that point. Cause by that point, all right, I'm definitely not making this next one. I kind of like spilt over. So it's more like bonus at the very end where it's like, what am I going to try and collect here at the end to just beat other people that also completed this round?
See Mike doing his
he's doing his mobility.
What a good point.
Matt has started round 4. The last split was a 227. So now he's in basically the time window of 3.5 minutes. So his rest now has been cut down by 30 seconds or his time window. So he's definitely starting to notice it now. I kept asking him each round, like, hey, what's your RPE at? Where are you at? And like rounds 1 through 3, he was like 2, 2.5, nothing. And then all of a sudden he was like 6. Yeah. Like it just picks up pretty quick.
I think it was round 5 where he said, because we told him how much time rest he had left. And he's like, I thought I had a lot more. And like all of a sudden it just kind of hits you like that.
Yeah.
So one, I think mentally be aware of the fact that rest is going to go down and do your best not to panic when it starts to feel like it's not adequate enough, because the pace still doesn't have to be crazy. Like even when you feel like it's starting, like you're not all the way recovered, you don't have to immediately jump your pace up on the next one in response to it. You can still hold that pace as long as you're ready for the shrinking time window.
Yeah. You just got to be aware then if you're not going to push to give yourself a little bit of a break and you're going to get closer and closer to the window, you got to be prepared for, like, in this beginning, it's rest recovery. But then when you start to get to your actual limit, it starts to just turn into a Metcon. Like, you only have 5 or 10 seconds to finish your row and start your next set of burpees.
Yeah, for somebody like Matt's capacity in this, at some point it's going to be almost like 2 to 3 continuous rounds. Yes. That's just what it feels like. You barely even have time to get a drink of water. Yeah. So I think all of us are probably going to get to the point where we know that probably where we're going to finish based off of how the workout is feeling or what our warm-up rounds are like. But I would say, as much as possible, even if you know that your next one is going to be your last one, still get to work right away. Like, still treat it like Max was saying, like, now instead of it being round with rest in between, it's 2 continuous rounds, and I'm trying to keep myself moving as much as possible.
Yeah. I think there's 2 approaches as well. Some people want to basically stretch out the work completed in the time window as much as possible to conserve energy. And then a lot of people, like, you'll notice that it becomes really challenging mentally to all of a sudden have to, like, kick up your intensity when you haven't built into it. So Matt was saying that like he was rowing at 2 minutes for several rounds, and all of a sudden he's like, all right, I got to row like a 148. Like, that increase was very uncomfortable and, like, almost caught him off guard. So you could gradually start to build that up. You could still, like, maybe adjust your burpee pacing a little bit, but start kind of ramping your row up, in my opinion, to get your mind, to get your body used to what that speed and turnover will feel like.
Yeah. Before I add some technical stuff, I think kind of my last point on this is each type of test that you see in CrossFit, like the for time tests, the AMRAP tests, they have a different psychology that are required to do well on them. When you have a task to get done in a certain time versus an amount of time to do work, this is kind of like, it's definitely not tested as often, but this decreasing rest window, it plays a lot of these psychological games on you in terms of managing effort, how to do the pacing when the window's getting smaller, when to start transitioning from rest recovery into continuous work. So take into consideration as you're doing this, like, okay, how would I take this mindset and transfer it not just into our test retest, but into workouts that have the ascending windows and the time windows that you have to rush to get work done to unlock the next amount of work. Because that's really the point of the test. It's like, yes, we want to get you better at rowing and burpees for the season coming up, but we also wanted to pick a format that was going to help you psychologically as an athlete developing
it's
your
like
skills.
An added benefit in terms of, like, situational awareness in the sport.
Yeah.
So he has finished round 5. He's in the middle of round 6 right now. He has until the 21:30 mark. This is the 3-minute, 10-second window. His previous splits were 237, 231, 228, 227, 222. So he's at a very small, gradual increase, which I think is really beautifully paced.
What I've started to notice here is he was starting to do 5 to 6 jump burpees, like 2-foot jump, 2 foot up and down. And then towards the end, he would do the step over that he was doing in the beginning. So he's buying himself probably another 1 or 2 seconds with those slightly faster burpees, but not sprinting all the way through, getting immediately to work on the rower. So one of the things that I would say as you're getting ready to do this test, one of the last things you should do in your warm-up is to do a full round. Do a full round at a row pace that you would expect to be able to hold through at least like round 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Because when people do their math or something like this, they think about, all right, 2.5 to 3 seconds per burpee, and then I can row at a 210 or something. But what you lose in there is you lose the transition time, what it takes to get the rower up to speed, how much time do I need to spend at that target pace in order to actually hit that round? Because what you thought was going to be an easy 220 or 225 when it actually is on the clock is now 235 to 240 because of all those things you didn't take into account.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of means that this, like, round 7 to 10, where the windows are anywhere from 3 minutes to 2:30, is probably where a lot of kind of intermediate / RX athletes are going to be at their version of max effort, where you're like doing a 2:30 to a 2:45 round. It's super challenging and you only have 10 or 15 seconds of rest. So kind of be prepared for this 20 to 30 minute time domain being where most, recreational competitors will stand. And then as you get to the more elite levels, that, 10 to finishing is going to basically be where most people are, depending on your row capacity.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about, I don't think we did it on camera, like what the row requirement of 2K would be to try to actually finish the test.
My best guess for trying to finish all 12 rounds of the start of the beep test and be able to get to the reward of the 13th round would be somewhere around like a 642K for guys and probably like a 720 to 725 for girls.
Yeah.
That's just like the, I would say like
That's just an
somewhat
estimate.
needed,
Yeah.
right? Like you also have to be able to burpee fast. You also
Yeah.
have to be able to recover inside of that row and be able to repeat it over and over. So,
and it's the time domain is much longer. Like a 2K
Yeah.
is only 7
Yeah.
minutes. This is going to be 40 something.
so it's not to say that if you have a 6:38 2K for guys that you're going to finish this. There's
Yeah.
lots of other stuff that goes into it.
I mean, to put it in perspective, from the guy for the guys' distance, the 12th round, which is the last basically closed time window, because 13th you're doing for time if you make it, is 2 minutes 10 seconds. So if you sprinted your burpees, did them in 20 seconds, that leaves a minute 50 to get on, get the rower going, and finish your 500-meter row.
Yeah.
Which under fatigue after 11 previous rounds is really hard. So you need to be able to sustain and hold at least a 150, slightly faster considering transition time, to be able to complete that. So
and not many people are doing sprint burpees in the last interval.
no,
of this.
yeah.
Like the 20 seconds would be extremely fast.
You're
I would
just
say.
getting off from your previous row that was
Yes.
maybe 5 seconds slower. So
I mean, that's a good segue to talk. So now we're in what, the 8th round? Is that right?
he's 26:30 right now, so he is in the 8th round.
So he's in the 8th round. So it's getting close to the point where he's got to start thinking about being as efficient as possible. So this could be the 5th round for some people. It could be the 8th round. It could be the 10th round. What do you guys see as the best place to find separation value here when it comes to trying to squeeze out a little bit more time? Because when I look at it and I look at a 500-meter row or 450 for girls, like you could take your pace from 205 down to 150.
Yeah.
And like that's 15 seconds. But what's the cost of that? What's the cost of that on the next one?
To me, the way I always operate on work rest scenarios like this that I found helpful is thinking of it as if it was like a 2-minute machine interval, like on the Echo bike. I'm going to kind of punch it and then I'm going to taper down because those first 8 to 10 seconds, you don't really feel much. Like you have a lot of power stored up, so you can use that. And that's what Matt kind of naturally does. He does the burpees real quick and then kind of tapers down, and his row pace has not really changed much as he's continued to go on. He's started speeding up his burpees, maybe a little bit faster on the row, but when it comes to distance on a row, there's not a massive return on effort you put in for the split you're trying to increase.
Yeah, I think that's the important point I was trying to get at. So this test specifically, but I also think that rowing for distance inside of most CrossFit Metcons is going to be like that, where the row pace, pushing it on that is not necessarily like worth the energy cost that it takes, right? Yep. Whereas if I take my burpee time and I started at 28 seconds per my 10 reps and I took that down to 24, 22, I think Matt started doing 20s towards the end when he really wanted some more time. Like Mike says, you can kind of punch that a little bit, be really clean with your footwork, and then get on and then hold a row pace. And all of a sudden that row pace is almost like recovery. Yep. So inside of this test, it's probably helpful, but also I would say it's very, very helpful to think about that in other CrossFit settings as well, where the row is not necessarily a big separator, but if you're taking big breaks or your burpee pace falls off by 1 second per rep, like you can see what that cost
The key
does.
there was that you said it was when it was for distance, right, as opposed to calories.
Yeah.
Would you say something different if it was calories?
I would say that distance is probably a little bit more impactful or non-impactful than calories, but calories I'd say probably still falls in that boat in terms of there's not a ton of return on investment when compared to some of the other stuff that it's mixed with in the sport.
On this short of intervals.
Yeah.
So he's in round 10 right now. He just finished round 9. That's the 2-minute 40-second window. He finished in 2:15. So he's like operating now. His next one he's doing, it's 2:30 window, and he's around a 2:15 split to finish. So he's getting close to like 15 to 25 seconds rest. So it's drastically cut down, whereas 4 sets ago he had still close to a minute rest.
Yeah. I think the big keys as you're getting close to the end are really a lot about the details of how you get in and out of the rower and how you get up to pace. So like at some point, if you're finishing the interval with 3 seconds left, getting your feet out and oriented, so the second the clock starts, you're dropping for your first burpee. And then when you're done with your burpee, getting in the rower, it doesn't necessarily mean you got to like sprint start or that you got to hold a blazing pace, but you cannot afford to take 15 seconds to get up to your working pace. So like getting your foot in, getting up to pace as quick as possible, and then just holding a steady pace, I think would be kind of the like keys for performance. Is almost like the transitional elements start to matter more and more and more and more when the window's getting tighter versus like trying to speed up any of the movements if you're already at red line.
Yeah, no, it's easier to transition with a little bit more urgency, and the cost is so much less. If I take 3 to 4 seconds from not feeling sorry about myself and when I get done with the burpees and get on the rower, like it makes the row easier because I have more time for it.
I felt so sorry for myself.
So his time cap on this one is 34:50. and he's going to stretch that out pretty close. So
are we in round 10, 11?
He's finishing around 11.
Okay, finishing 11.
Yeah, so he's near the end and he knows it.
So we're talking to him in the back. We tell him how much time he has left. He knows that he was going to finish that, but he also knows he basically has to go straight into this one. So you saw he didn't go for a towel. He didn't go for a drink. He knew he was just going to have to get back to work.
Looked like he false started with our clock, but I'm guessing that means our little clock in the bottom
Our clock
left
might be
is
a couple
off.
seconds fast. Yeah. So those burpees are fast, and you can tell the faster start on this, like he knows that he's going to have to push this one to have a chance. So
this is round 12. Like
round 12, the last window is 210, like Mike said before. So
you can tell even in his
cap.
posture there that he's pulling way harder. He's not joking around and doing the Trevor tugs anymore.
I think that he was around 138 to 139 per 500 for the first like 300 meters of this, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And then once we got a feel for where he was at around the 250 mark, we told him that he was going to finish and that he needed to start thinking about that reward round.
Yep.
You'll notice though at the end of this round how much energy like this whole test has actually cost him. So he knows right here, if I can just hold this 140 to 142 pace, I'm going to finish. It doesn't make it any easier though. And it makes it that much harder to be able to say, I'm going to try and pour everything I've got into the one after this.
There is also a very high likelihood that elites will sell out to finish this round, and then their last round will be slower than the one prior.
That's exactly what just is going to happen to Matt. So this is his reward round. You can see what the burpees are looking like now compared to what they look like in that 12th round.
How many no reps did he get?
He only had one no rep burpee that I called.
Oh, he got a no rep? For what?
It was in the
Touching
middle somewhere.
line?
Yeah, he just kicked the rower when he went over.
So 37 minutes was his cap on that, and now he's doing this last one for time. And I think something to note that a lot of elite athletes will run into that finish is that it comes down to that last round of thinking, all right, what's the effort I need to push to finish this, while like strategically juggling with, I get off now, I'm blown up. How do I operate with the remaining work left to get the most out of this? Because you can get on a 500-meter row and you could blow up in the first 200 if you think I have more in the tank. You could get 200 meters in and completely tank the last 300. So I like that element where it's not done. It's a short amount of work, but you still have to be strategic about how you're going to get the most out of this final interval.
Yeah.
What type of pace was he holding here in this last row?
143 was his finishing row time.
Yeah, so his 12th round was the fastest, both in the overall time, but also the row pace.
Yeah, you could see here he's kicking. All right.
He's done.
39. What was it? 39.19 when he finished?
So his last round was 219.
219.
Yeah. 219. So I mean, super, super impressive to be able to finish all of those and also still have something left for that 13th round. He didn't say thank you, even though we gave him that reward in the 13th round.
What an
crushed it.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, great work. You crushed it. Your reward is more pain for finishing that final interval.
All right, so as you can see, there's a lot of math in terms of the durations of the intervals. We had the line at the back of the rower. So Adam and Mike are going to take you out to the floor and explain how to set this test up to make sure that you actually run it clean on your first attempt.
Okay, guys, in this video, we're going to walk through the Bebop and Rocksteady row burpee beep test we're doing this cycle. We want to walk through standards as well as some points of performance and setup to make sure that you can operate and execute this workout cleanly.
Nailed it. All right, standards. The standards for the burpees, what we're going to do, set up your rower, and then behind the rower, at the base of it, you're going to extend the line out about 2 to 3 feet on each side. Our only rule on the burpees is your hands have to be behind this line when you go down. Chest and thighs hit the ground at the same time. My hands need to be both behind this line. Down for my burpee, my head can be over the line. Up, I can jump over, I can step over, I just can't touch the rower on my way over. So as long as I'm coming over and I'm clean, once both feet hit here, that's one good rep. Down on this side, if I happen to get a no rep, say that I kick this seat on the way over, that's a no rep, that rep doesn't count, I can still go back down on this side for my next rep, okay? So, hands behind the line, don't touch the rower during the burpee. To set up the rower for the intervals, what we're gonna do, go back one more for me. So, this is the home screen on the rower. You're gonna go to select workout, new workout, and then we're gonna do intervals. And we're gonna do intervals distance. For guys, you're gonna have 500 meters here. For girls, you're gonna change this number to 450. What I want you to do instead of set rest time though, is I want you to just tick it over one time to the point where it says undefined rest. Now, when I'm here and I do all my 500 meters, after each round, when I complete my burpees, I'm gonna get on the rower and there's gonna be a little button down in the bottom that says reset or next interval. So all I gotta do before I start my row is push that button and then I can start rowing. You can see Matt do that inside of the demo video. Okay? Next thing setup wise, it makes a ton of sense if you don't have somebody there to help you to have a whiteboard ready that has all of these time windows already worked out for you. You don't want to be doing math in the middle of it. You don't have to record your times during the first couple of rounds to know when you're finishing. All you need to know is when you need to finish by and when the next round's going to start. That way you can sort of have a feel for when your rest breaks are going to be and about what things are going to look like when you're on your interval and trying to work out the pacing. So have this where you can see it with the rower while you're on the rower, so you know how much time left, and also have the clock where you can see it while you're on the rower, so you can see both in sort of your same field of view.
If you don't have a massive whiteboard, a very small, simple whiteboard is also extremely helpful. You're literally just writing down the start times of each interval. So as I finish round 1, I would just knock that off, and then I know 4 minutes is the start of the next one. As I complete them, you just knock them off if you want. Obviously, you'll get to a point where you'll have very minimal time between transitions, so you don't actually have to touch it, but you can at least look at it and know when your starting points are by referencing the clock as it's going.
Last thing, to make it super, super easy, make sure that we try and keep all the logistics out as possible, is we actually created a timing app that we can share a link to inside of WattUp that people can go and download. What it's going to be is basically on your phone, you're going to have a countdown clock that's going to work its way down by window. So on the first window, when I hit 3, 2, 1, go on my app, it's going to be a 4-minute countdown. Once that guy hits 0, the next interval is going to be a 3:50 countdown. So you don't even need to write any of these down.
It'll beep at you when you go?
What's that?
Will it beep at you when it's time to go?
You'll give you a 3, 2, 1 go at the start of each interval. So it's all already set up, all the intervals are already worked out. That's if you guys want to go and download it. It's unfortunately a different app, but it would save a ton of work and you wouldn't have to worry about any of the numbers there. You could just stare at that clock and let it tell you when to go.
Monday, November 10th, we're kicking off a new training cycle, Ultimus, for all of our online training programs, TTT Compete, TTT 60, and TTT Affiliate. If competing is no longer your thing, make sure you check out the overviews for our TTT 60 program. And if you run a gym, check out our overview for TTT Affiliate.